Picture this. You're 40 miles offshore. Nothing but open water behind you, and nothing but the unknown ahead. The sky starts to turn, slow at first, then suddenly with purpose. A wall of black clouds rises like a mountain. The wind cuts sideways. The waves lift your hull like it weighs nothing. And that's the moment the truth comes out. That's when a good boat keeps you alive, and a bad one shows you exactly how dangerous it really is. Because out here, far from land, far from help, there are boats that became legends. Machines that earned respect through storms and survival. And then there are the others. Boats whispered about marinas. Boats captains warned new buyers to avoid. Boats with design flaws so severe or failures so catastrophic that the ocean exposed them in the harshest way possible. Today, we're diving into 11 of the most dangerous saltwater boats ever built. The ones that didn't just perform poorly, they put people at risk. Some failed quietly. Some failed violently. All left a legacy nobody expected. So settle in, because this story starts where every offshore nightmare begins, when the ocean decides to test your boat and your luck. Number 11. The 1970 Sailfish 20. The 1970 Sailfish 20 looked innocent enough. A small center console, light, cheap, and aimed at family fishermen. But beneath its budget-friendly charm was a flaw that turned a calm day offshore into a terrifying one. The issue? A foam-filled hull that absorbed water like a sponge. Owners would launch it light and return with a hull weighing hundreds of pounds more. As the foam took on water, the boat sat lower and lower. Some so low the scuppers stayed underwater permanently. Every wave became a bucket of water. Every ride felt like trying to plane a refrigerator. By the 1980s, its reputation was toast. It wasn't the storms that sank most Sailfish 20s, it was their own design. Number 10. The Proline 230, early 2000s. Proline made some excellent boats, but early 2000s productions rushed out one model that became infamous offshore, the 230 Sport. The problem wasn't one flaw, it was multiple. Transoms delaminating, stringers separating, decks cracking under stress. Take this offshore in rough chop and the hull flexed so violently that some owners reported spider cracks after one season of use. One fisherman described it best. It felt like the boat wanted to tear itself in half. Combine structural weakness with offshore waves, and the 230 Sport quickly made the wrong kind of headlines. Number 9. The 1980s Bayliner Trophy, 2160. There are affordable boats, and then there was the 2160 Trophy. Bayliner built it when the industry was obsessed with lower prices, and corners were cut everywhere. Thin hull laminate, under-engineered transoms, weak cabin structure, terrible weight distribution. The result? Boats that porpoised uncontrollably, struggled to track straight in a beam sea, and in some cases, suffered catastrophic hull cracks offshore. One Coast Guard report in the 80s even noted that several amateur captains had to be rescued because the boat's handling became unpredictable in quartering seas. The Trophy 2160 became a harsh lesson. There's affordable, and there's unsafe. Number 8. Mid-2000s Triumph 210. Triumph marketed their rope-line boats as indestructible. Hit a dock? Fine. Drop a hammer on it? Fine. Launch it off a trailer? Fine. But in the ocean? Not so fine. The 210 center console became known for excessive flex in rough water, unpredictable hull behavior, a rubbery feel in chop, slamming so hard it felt like punishment. One offshore owner wrote, "The hull survived the waves. My spine didn't." It wasn't that the 210 was cheaply built, it was the opposite. The material simply wasn't suited for offshore dynamics. And at speed, it could behave like a giant plastic sled on a washing machine. Number 7. The 1990s Dusky 233 early hulls. Now, Dusky today makes legendary offshore boats, but the early 233 models in the 1990s had one notorious problem. They were incredibly bow-light. Some captains loved the aggressive ride. Others discovered the dark side. On following seas, the boat could bow steer hard. If a wave caught the transom just right, the boat jerked sideways, violently, and sometimes dangerously close to broaching. Local captains from Florida to the Carolinas still talk about the early Dusky 233 as the boat that taught you respect. Dusky fixed the issue in later years, but the early models earned their place on this list. Number 6. Sea Ray Laguna 21, 1990s. Sea Ray is known for luxury cruisers, not hardcore offshore hulls. And when they tried to enter the fishing world with the Laguna 21, the results were painful. Literally, the hull had a blunt entry, poor weight balance, a tendency to slam violently. Take it out on a calm day? Beautiful, smooth, comfortable. But take it offshore into real Atlantic or Gulf chop? The entire boat turned into a slamming machine. Anglers joked about bringing ibuprofen before heading out. Others claimed they couldn't exceed 18 to 20 miles per hour unless they enjoyed dental rearrangement. The Laguna 21 wasn't dangerous because it fell apart. It was dangerous because it punished you until you made mistakes. Number 5. The Wellcraft 233 Eclipse. The Wellcraft 233 Eclipse looked like the perfect hybrid. Sporty, roomy, and designed for cruising and fishing. But its deep V hull and top-heavy layout created a dangerous combination. Severe leaning in turns, unstable at low speed, prone to taking water over the bow, nearly uncontrollable in cross-chop. One captain described the handling as like driving a refrigerator on roller skates. Owners reported close calls offshore when the bow suddenly dipped into a trough or the boat leaned so far it felt like it might roll. Wellcraft eventually abandoned the design entirely. Number 4. The 1980s Aquasport 290 Express. Aquasport built great hulls, but the 290 Express had a structural flaw that became a nightmare offshore. The problem? The hull was heavy, the cabin was heavy, the deck was heavy, but the stringer system was too weak to support it long term. Over time, these boats started showing, flexing around the keel, bulkheads separating, decks shifting, some stringers rotting internally. Take that offshore into 4 to 6 foot chop, and you suddenly had a 29-footer acting like an old wooden dock. The boat wasn't just uncomfortable, it became mechanically unpredictable and dangerously fatigued. Number 3. The 1970 Starcraft Islander 221. Aluminum is fantastic when engineered correctly, but the 1970s mid-production Starcraft Islanders were thin, light, and prone to metal fatigue and waves. In fresh water? Fine. On a lake? Beautiful. Offshore? A different story. In heavy saltwater chop, the hull could flex so aggressively that rivets strained, seams opened, and some boats formed small stress cracks along the chines. Starcraft improved them over the years, but early Islanders remain infamous among Great Lakes captains who accidentally took them too far toward the Atlantic. They were lake boats and dangerous offshore boats. Number 2. The 1999 to 2002 Key West 2300 Blue Water. Key West is respectable today. Solid hulls, great value. But the early 2300 Blue Water models had a terrifying issue. When swamped, the boat didn't self-right or stay level. Instead, the flotation foam caused an aggressive list that pulled the port side underwater first. In rescue testing, it performed far worse than expected. In the real world, several owners reported that once the bilge was overwhelmed, the boat behaved unpredictably. And in 2 cases documented online, captains abandoned ship because they feared a rollover. Key West redesigned the flotation system, but these 4 early model years left a dent in the boat's reputation. Number 1. The 1980s Sportcraft 230cc. At the top of the list sits a boat with one of the most feared reputations offshore, the 1980s Sportcraft 230 center console. On paper, it was perfect. Deep V hull, big fishing deck, spacious design. But hidden inside was one of the most catastrophic engineering failures in recreational boat history. Stringers that weren't bonded properly, and in some cases, barely attached at all. As the hull aged and flexed, the structure weakened. Some captains noticed soft decks. Others heard creaking that sounded like cracking bones. And then it happened. Multiple accounts surfaced of 230 suffering catastrophic hull failures offshore, including hull bottoms separating, transoms collapsing. One case where the hull literally split along the keel. Not from impact, not from a collision, from wave pressure. This boat single-handedly destroyed Sportcraft's reputation for years. Ask any old school captain in Florida or Alabama, and they'll tell you the same thing. That boat scared people, and it deserved to. A pattern emerges when looking at the most dangerous saltwater boats ever built. 1. Design mistakes. A hull shape determines everything offshore. If it's wrong, no amount of horsepower can save you. 2. Weak structure. When stringers, bulkheads, or transoms fail, the boat becomes a ticking time bomb. 3. Wrong boat for the water. Lake boats belong on lakes. Plastic hulls belong in calm bays. Some companies learned this the hard way. 4. Cost cutting. Cheap materials in saltwater? They don't stay cheap for long. 5. Misleading marketing. Too many boats were advertised as offshore capable when they were nothing of the sort. Saltwater exposes every weakness, every flaw, every corner cut. And these 11 boats became infamous not because owners hated them, but because the ocean revealed their truth. If you're buying used, especially anything from the 70s, 80s, or early 2000s, these models are the ones to research carefully. Offshore, your boat is your lifeline. Choose wisely, and the ocean will still scare you, but your boat won't. Which boat surprised you most on this list? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe for more boating stories, engine deep dives, and real-world reliability reviews.